What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and we are back in Space Engineers and back with the Building a Fleet series. Been a little while since I've been doing anything with this one, but I got a bit carried away streaming with Morph the other day and decided to do another design for the red team. So this is the team that's got the broadsword and the rapier in. And more importantly, I wanted to do something that was kind of designed to sit in the fleet as a counter to the two you're seeing on the screen now. This is the rapier, this is the broadsword. But also to kind of fit within the fleet design as something that was, you know, fair, balanced, and everything all sort of worked when you actually put it into a testing and a battle scenario. So that's really the point of today's video, show off this design, and more importantly, show off some of the testing I've done with it to see whether or not it figured out. So we're going to kick off with this, which is a bit of a demo against, admittedly, Keen's very, very useless built-in drones, the fleeting rivals. However, it was kind of fun, and at least it gives you an idea that in these sort of circumstances, this is a pretty effective and pretty damn manoeuvrable ship. We're using Digi's aerodynamic wings again to counter the need for any downwards thrust, so that we can focus the ship design on forwards thrust. So it's really fast, really manoeuvrable, really capable of dogfighting in amongst ships that are much, much, much smaller than itself. So as you can see, when it comes down to taking out a bunch of Keen's drones, especially ones that are distracted a little bit by the easy start base, it is more than capable of doing so, and banking in a pretty ridiculous way, which really helps with that. Little shot at the end for some reason to take out a drone on the roof. Wish the turrets were a little bit more intelligent. But having seen, I don't know, a quick flight test, let's jump in, have a look at the design, and then I can end this video with a proper demonstration against other players where it's just this, the Bat'leth, against a group of its enemy fighters. So that's the Glaive and the Gladius, and then later on the Rapier and the Broadsword, my whole fleet of little fighters that it's designed to counter. So I figure the best place for us to start is actually with these two, the Rapier on the left, the Broadsword on the right, because this is where this whole thing kind of began. Digi released his aerodynamic wings, which is a really awesome mod, link down below, that I use all the time now, and it added these wings in that kind of give an approximation of how lift works. It isn't strictly lift, but it gives you an approximation. It means you can make ships that get rid of the normal requirement for most of your thrusters to be on the bottom in gravity. So that means that these ships are all designed to, like this, float and use as few downwards thrusters as possible while still maintaining handling. So you can see that the Rapier at the bottom there's got a couple, and then if we go over to the Broadsword, it's got a few more, just to kind of act as damping when you want to do your turns and your banks. And the result is a couple of super manoeuvrable, super fun little fighters to fly around in. Had a ton of fun with these, and hopefully you guys are familiar with the channel would have seen these guys before, because they're one of my favourite designs. And so we went from there onto some counterparts, the yellow team, and these guys were designed to be comparable. You know, sort of as if you've got the GDI and Nod scenario. Somehow you've got two factions that for no apparent reason are building ships designed to be completely equivalent to each other, but look different. And so this led to the Gladius on the left, the Glaive on the right, two ships from the yellow team that perform much the same. And I've had no end of fun with all these designs so far. Really good things to mess around with the community. And so I've kind of been continuing to build in this theme, and there's a whole bunch of other versions. So that leads us on quite neatly to the Bat'leth over here. We get rid of those so the game runs a bit better, and take a look at the deal behind this, because it's not so simple as take a Rapier and make it bigger, because if you take a Rapier and make it bigger, you can imagine something this size is never going to be able to dogfight in the same way. It's just physically too big to swing itself around and keep the frontal guns pointed on a target. But you still want it to get in amongst, because it's still one of those ships that, because it's got loads and loads and loads of wings and only a very limited amount of downwards thrust, it's really light for what it is. It's really manoeuvrable for what it is. So my solution was to, as you can see, cover the thing in turrets. The idea being you've got sort of almost two separate banks. You've got the bank on the bottom, you've got the bank on the top, and that would enable you, if you can imagine flying this thing through the middle of a group of fighters, that enables you to have maybe a target that you're opening up with all these Gatlings on. You can see there's a ton of centerline Gatlings. And then at the same time, your bottom turrets are shooting at one target that's below you. Your upper turrets are shooting at another target that's above you, and if you need to, say when you bank, these are suddenly all horizontally mounted. So you can imagine when this thing is banking in turns, it's like this. And you've got all of the turrets on the top or all the turrets on the bottom suddenly capable of opening and holding fire on a target. So that's part of what I wanted to do with it, but I also wanted to make sure that technically it could still come in and compete with the two little fighters when it came to how fast it moved around, and more importantly, it could take the hits in a way that those little ones couldn't. The big benefits of these big ships. So the easiest way for me to demonstrate the taking the hits thing is to actually go around the back here, where you'll notice that this one has had the entire top half chopped off, and apparently is absolutely fine with it, to the point where I could get in that, fly it, and it would probably handle better than that one, just on the basis that it's quite light now, it doesn't have the roof. The other thing you can see here is I've managed to put a sort of interior on it. Now, I've built this only using Digi's Aerodynamic Wings mod, but I did figure, hey, this is going to go up on the workshop. Maybe you guys want to do a small ship gone wild build with it and stick some sort of interior in here. So our access at the moment is actually through this tiny little hole, just to kind of hide the fact that the interior is there, because in vanilla you don't have a huge amount you can put in here that makes much sense. But you could quite easily open up this bottom section. You can see the red bits will give you access to outside. You can maybe put a door in there, a hatchway, and have a proper interior in here, which I thought was kind of a cool side project. But it also means that, as you can see, you can chop it in half that way and it'll fly. And weirdly, and I kind of didn't expect this, you could also chop it in half that way and it'll still fly and hover and be okay, which is good. That means we've got the redundancy thing nailed. I do like to make sure that every set of conveyor tubes on a build that honestly didn't need to be survival ready but is linked up in a way that you've got two sets of tubes rather than just one, and everything's got that sort of level of redundancy. There's one more thing in the mix that can cover your back. But before we move on to the battle and I can actually demonstrate what happens when you take this up against its equivalent fighters, let's go and give it a quick flight test, and I can talk a tiny bit about some of the things and some of the ways in which it differs when you make a massive version like this, because it kind of surprised me a bit. So the main gist with this one is that while it doesn't accelerate that fast, it doesn't have that same super crazy acceleration as the Rapier and the Broadsword, it does still have the ability to bank and turn in really ridiculous ways. Now I might have overdone that. No, even there I haven't overdone it. So that'll give you a prime example. You can be ridiculously close to the floor, or ridiculously say someone's right behind me here, trying to follow up behind, which would be a very silly idea with this many turrets pointing around. But it would take no time at all for me to be able to drift the entire ship round and be back on them. All these turrets firing, remember there are turrets on the bottom as well, so these ones down here will be doing the work, and that enables you to bank, it enables you to fly through a group of fighters and have multiple targets taken out at the same time, because your top turrets are shooting at one thing and your bottom turrets are shooting at something completely different. Another way in which you can use this that's a bit different to how the Rapier and the Broadsword behave, I mean, you can obviously do the old Rapier and Broadsword, I'm going to fly around like a lunatic far too close to the ground and just demonstrate that the manoeuvrability is pretty silly as long as you remember to bank. You have to bank in this because your dampers are your wings to some extent. But the other thing you can do with it is really use its weight to its advantage. So as you can see, it's not super heavy for something the size it is, primarily because it's built out of light armor, which is really important, and primarily because it's quite hollow. But what it does enable you to do is, for example, get up 100 meters a second, go upwards, and you can imagine here we've got probably a group of fighters or something trying to chase us down, following us. They're on this craft. And then any time we want, you can almost immediately flip to 100 meters a second pointing downwards, which for a craft of this size is quite a ridiculous maneuver. So if I zoom out a bit, you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Going up, going up, going up. All right, that's enough. Let go. Immediately flip down. And now we're accelerating back down again, which is just something this size doing that quickly seems pretty unfair. Now, obviously, the weaknesses of this are it's small turrets. They're small turrets. They are very inaccurate. So you do have to fly around a fair bit before you can expect them to hit anything, especially when dealing with targets like the glaive, the broadsword, the rapier. Those things are so maneuverable, you really do have to think about it. But it's also got the added benefit of I kind of just put as many gatlings on the front of it as I could fit, on the basis that if you can fill the sky with lead, it's very, very hard to avoid them. So you can imagine flying in towards this ship with that hail of fire coming towards you. Now, while it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, you can sort of see the speed at which it does take a ship apart. Let's make sure we don't crash into this. No. Oh, no. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Or melt through the floor? Oh, space engineers, we do love you. What is this? Is the floor going to catch up? Oh, the floor has caught up. Now, I believe if this still has power, that could probably still fly. Let's see what happens. That one went through the landing, the runway as well, did it? I see. So, this wreck of a ship sitting here, it looks like we've lost the cockpit, which I... No, we haven't. Even that's still in there. Let's plop her down and see what happens. Do you still fly, my friend? Yep. And that's what I'm talking about. Redundancy. Crash into the ground, and what are you going to get at the end of it? Something that actually handles slightly better than it did to begin with. Looks like we've got... Oh, we're really lacking backwards rear thrust. Alright, enough of me blowing this up. I think you guys get an idea of what this is all about and exactly how I put it together. Let's go and fight them with some friends and see how it handles when it's actually in the real scenario it was designed for, rather than some really rubbishy artificial scenarios that I keep creating. So we're going to pick this up in the air for the first one, because it took a while even just to get people organised. And the gist with this one is simply, we're over a lake, we got to find each other and have a fight. And it's one bat'leth with 2 cameras at the top, one pointing forwards, one pointing backwards, against 3 glaives and a gladius. So that's the little yellow fighters, and then one of the bigger yellow bombers that have got all the rockets on. Now, I'm going to have to apologise for the audio in this. Apparently I had the engine noise way too loud in the recording, so there's, or in-game sound. So there's quite a lot of that that's going to come through, but hopefully it's kind of fun as well. And yeah, maybe the split POV thing does some interesting stuff. I don't know how much editing I'm going to be able to do with this to make it look cool, but I'm certainly going to try.
I have no idea where anyone is.
Oh, damn it! And this is why modern planes have...
I have literally...
I can see the fighter you're not in.
What? Oh dear.
Wait, what? I don't even recognize this patch of dirt.
The one you left behind. So ironically, given they're searching for something so massive, we struggle to even meet each other up to begin with. We're both over the same area, but we can't see each other because those little fighters are so small.
I recognize this place. Like, what the hell? Did it teleport me or something?
I'm also doing my best to hug the ground and try and kind of stay low and as hidden as I can.
Oh, target spotted.
However, they were mostly together, so when they do find me, they find me as a group, and I know my main mission is to take out that gladius in the bottom left. So having spotted him, the very first thing, work out where he is and go and try and take him, and unfortunately...
Oh, that was a direct hit, my friend.
This one ends in a ram. While this is all going on, some of the other fighters are getting beaten up quite hard. There's the ram at the end of one of our cameras. The other guys are getting beaten up quite hard by the rockets, but I'm not catching much of it because they're so small and so fast, and I'm so focused on one target. But if you do watch the bottom right-hand point of view, the glaive POV, you do get a little bit of an idea of how these things are kind of constantly buzzing in and out around me. And the first of the big weaknesses of the bat'leth is really kind of drawn out here. Small ship turrets are so inaccurate. I'm really not hitting them very often. Once in a blue moon you get a nice hit like there, but most of the time it's just wildly missing, and I'm having to rethink a bit how I'm going to do this. I start to think I've got to get in amongst them for this to work. They've got to be close.
Half my guns are down, but she's still flying.
A chunk of my ship is still flying because it's aerodynamic.
So we try the maneuver I pulled earlier, and you can see a big barrage of rockets come off the rear as we go past them, and that is clearly what this ship's good at. At the same time though, they've actually done a decent amount of damage to me, especially if you consider I took out the one with rockets immediately. The gladius is down.
The trail of flame coming off of your right engine is just... Michael Bay.
The best.
So they're all on my tail. I'm struggling to shake them, and it's really just a case of I need to get Dogfighter in here. I need to reassess this, so I start really throwing the ship around. Give them hell, stay all over them, and this works in a way that I never expected. Again, if you watch the sort of multiple POV and keep an eye on what's going on for Glaive 3, you can see how every time he tries to come round, I'm already back on in that direction again.
It won't end well for you crashing into me.
No,
I'm still going. I have half a ship left.
You have a hole in your wing, though. That's something.
I'm missing a wing.
Now at this point, the fighters that are staying close are really starting
I
to
nudged
regret
him.
it.
That's
That's not gonna help.
The area nudged him was on fire, so obviously that was me.
Guys, don't fly directly behind him. That's a stupid idea.
Oh
If
god,
one of you
this will
gets
just hit someone in the face.
It hits.
Sounds like the running away tactic was actually working better than I thought. However, perhaps not as well as keeping them in this dogfight scenario where they have to keep maneuvering around me.
That thing's maneuverable as all hell.
Hey, friend.
Eat
You're
it!
to be stuck in the gun.
Oh dear. Well, there goes all my
There's
engines.
still 3 ships left.
Have a
2.5.
Yeah, but
My half is still going now.
why were there 4 ships in the air?
Seems
then?
like the enemy team has also been cheating and had an extra ship that shouldn't have been up and around. But hey, it looks like with a final, slightly suicidal attempt to ram that leaves Glaive 3 with no, I think, no power? Certainly no gyroscope control. It's just tumbling from the sky, and a victory for the battle.
Now that was a better fight.
Yeah, that was a bit more.
Sim speed is fine still, right? Like if you do cleanup, you could get another round.
Yeah.
Or you start and ships it in the right
Oh god,
position.
no, it's going in.
Now, unfortunately, while I'd love to show you the other fight, the broadsword and the rapier against the bat'leth, that never really worked out quite so well, because unfortunately the guy playing the broadsword, the one with the rockets on it, got a little bit lost. Let me just show you his point of view here. Yeah, so that was a bit one-sided. Maybe I'll save that for another video. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. If you did, please hit that like button. Really helps me out. Please hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, you enjoying these sort of videos. Obviously, I do a lot of Space Engineers, a lot of other sci-fi gaming content. And otherwise, thanks a lot for watching, folks. I will catch you for the next one.